massive food insecurity. We're talking about billions of people that would be starving. Now, these shortages will continue to happen. There will be shortages in the majority of countries that had those black X's on it. Civilization is only 9 meals away from total anarchy. I heard this sentence many years ago, and it is so true. Some people even joke that it's only 3 meals away. Like, how long can you go without eating before you're a little cranky, a little hangry, right? We all have that all the time, and I'm telling you, it's not 3 days away. The funny thing is if you watch even a show called Survivor, when people start getting hungry, really terrible things coming, and all civility goes right out the window as people are starving and fighting over food. So if you go back to Jesus' time, 2,000 years ago, Rome, what did they used to do to a place to make them surrender control of their city? They used to surround them with their military and force them into a siege where they had no food and they would starve to death. And once they got starving, they would soften them up and get what they want. Think of even modern terms, when they would throw people in jail for something, they would just starve them for a while until they gave them what they wanted. We can't last long without food and water, you guys. Food is such an imperative part of what we need. Now, let's take a look at what's happening in some really bad places right now. Let's check out this picture and let me know what you think. No fruits and vegetables on those aisles, all empty. Let's go down to another picture. Empty shelves. As you can see, 99p, yeah, but it is in England, so the United Kingdom, they have no food. Let's go down to another picture. Empty aisles everywhere. No food, no fruits and vegetables, right? So of course people could buy some other stuff, right? But there is concern when you walk into a store and you can't get what you want. Now, we live in a beautiful time from 1970 kind of on, when we had the world being offered up with globalization. And so when a country could trade some of their stuff that they have for other stuff, would do well. Let's think of a country like Saudi Arabia. It is just sand, but they had a lot of oil. So they could pump oil out, send the oil overseas, and bring back another boat in with fruits and vegetables. It worked. But what happens now that Brexit leaves? They're only a tiny little island. They don't barely have a tree in the whole place, and they have no food. So they are in a lot of trouble. Now, let's take a look at some graph. I wanted to show you this graph, and let's see what you think of this. This right here is courtesy of Peter Zeihan. I think it's super important. These are the countries that import their calories. So if you notice here, imports 75% of their calories that they need for consumption. Red countries are trouble, big trouble. So check out down here. So let's take a look at this country right here. Isn't this Venezuela? I think it's Venezuela. If you look all over here in Africa, in the Middle East, and Saudi Arabia, a lot of trouble. Yemen, Qatar, Bahrain, all this, Abu Dhabi, Iran is in trouble. So where we are okay is these countries right here that export huge amounts of their food. So we're looking at green, and we're looking at, for sure, blue. Places that export their food. We're looking at blue. Canada, where I am, United States, Brazil, all of Europe. Also, we're looking at Australia. Does really well. Of course, they don't grow the majority of their food in the center. It's all in the edges, but it's showing you by country. Here are the problems. Look at the countries that bring in food. Almost all the other countries of the world have to import their food. This is the crazy part. Now, let's look up a map, because if we take a look at a map, this is all telling. So we're just going to look at a satellite picture of the planet. This is geography at its finest. If we take a look at Canada, where I am, you could see a lot of green, right? Most of this is all wheat over here. They grow an incredible amount of fruits and vegetables in this corridor over here. But if you look in the United States, do you think that they grow here where it's all brown? Not really. They do grow a lot where it's green. Yes, California is very green. They make a lot of avocados, almonds all over there where it is green. Brazil does very well. There's a lot of green there. But look at places like Chile. You see, they don't grow where it's brown. That makes sense, right? All of these countries here, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, Sudan, look at that. It's a desert. So it's not a real big surprise if we look back and look at this whole area here that's all in red and has to bring in their food. It's all of this, all of North Africa, all of these, Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, they don't have anything. Let's look. Guys, this is 1-to-1. It just shows you exactly what it is. If you look at the map and just continue on, huge parts of China, huge parts of Mongolia, this is not growing area. They only grow in certain parts where it is green. India, there's not a lot of green there where they cook. can do that, right? But if you look at Australia, around the edges is where it is very, very green, and they have a lot of fruits and vegetables that are there. Look back at the map again. Australia is doing well. It does well where it is green. Okay, so this is currently, these are the countries that export food. So all of these others, that if you're looking at these yellows and so forth, they're all in trouble. They can't eat. Here comes the worst part. These are the countries that can no longer survive if Russia stops sending out their fertilizer. This is a lot of X's. All of these countries can no longer make it if they do not have the supplies coming out of Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine creates a huge amount of food for the world, but they need the inputs from Russia and Ukraine, meaning all the fertilizers to grow the food. Let's look back. This is how it is currently. So all these countries from light green, dark green, and blue are okay. So there's some countries like France over here. Finland is okay. They're just even or send out a little bit. The blue is okay. We're talking huge portion of the world. 50% of the world can no longer make it. But look at what's happening today. There are very, very few countries that will be able to be okay. Canada, United States are going to be okay. Australia is going to be okay. There's not very many. Look at even Japan's in a lot of trouble. They have no land that's there. Even the UK, look at this. It's yellow, but they're going to probably be okay. France is doing well, and they have a good trade relationship with the two. Remember, this is where it is today. These are the countries that will fall because of food security. And we're going to be seeing this more and more and more as we go on. Now, inflation is going to be the story of the day. If we take a look at this right here, all of these countries are going to be having massive inflation. If we look at Iran right now, it's at 50% inflation. If we look at inflation over in South America right now, we're talking about 50% as well, and that is on paper. In reality, it's probably closer to 100%. Massive problems. But where we are in Canada and the United States, we're complaining because it's around 5 or 6% here. Now, this happened in the 40s after the Second World War. Massive inflation because the governments were building a lot of machines and they were trying to monetize their debt. Back in 70s, this is demand because everyone was turning 30 years old, having kids, buying houses. We expect that to happen, right? And then we've had this globalization for a long time. Now it's come up a little bit, 5, 6%. But please remember what the other countries are going to be heading into. Massive food insecurity. We're talking about billions of people that would be starving. Now, the majority of what I do is in Canada and the United States. So everybody can do something. The cheapest way to do that is when you go out, just try to go buy a couple cans for yourself. So just today, I was looking at this. This is an organic lentil soup, okay? Forget the brand. I'm not talking about the brand, but buy something that you like. But look at the date on the back. It says 2027. 2027. When you can go and stock up for yourself like this, you are pausing food inflation for 4 years. 4 years. Now, as you saw, that was breaking down because of the stuff that is not going to be coming out of Russia. There's going to be massive inflation that's going to be coming. So what can you do about it if you're seeing massive food increases? Because I'm seeing it. In the past 3 years, we've seen a lot of food items in Canada go up 50%. Can you imagine what is happening in Ukraine and Russia and Lebanon and all these other places that are in a lot of trouble? Iran. So you have to do something to pause inflation for yourself. And if you buy some of this, just a couple cans and put it away, you're pausing inflation for 4 years. We're going to have to figure out a new world. We're going to have to figure out how to survive, grow more food on less land with no fertilizer and less machinery coming from Germany. We have to figure that out. It's going to take time to figure that out. So you're going to see less and less food being made, which means prices have to go higher and higher and higher as demand is the same because everyone eats pretty much the same day to day, right? But there's not going to be enough to go around. And so all those countries I showed you on the map are going to be in trouble. So this is where you can go buy things that can last for years. I showed you this stuff could last 4 years. It says best before date. It might be good for years after that. Fruits and vegetables in cans are really, really, really cheap insurance for yourself. I think everybody should do that. I think everybody should be buying a little bit, having some cash available in your home. That's going to be something that's going to be very good for you. Buy a little bit of gold and silver for yourself. Have it in your own possession because that is universal money. But if you can just buy some of that, these shortages will happen, will continue to happen. There will be shortages in the majority of countries that had those black X's on it. But for richer countries, the product may be there. You've already seen a lot of stores that are empty. They may be there, but if it is there, it's going to cost you a lot more money and we might not be able to afford it. So please, when you go out, consider buying an extra couple cans every time you go out and stocking your insurance shelf there for you, because you can buy dried lentils and dried rice and dried beans for very cheap and keep them in a dark, dry, cool place. That's insurance for yourself. Buy some cans, fruits, vegetables, some meats in cans as emergency. It'll be good for many, many years. We have a lot of products that are good till 2027. Put them in a safe place where you know you have access to it, and then you could sleep well that night. I wish you the very, very best. I want everybody to do very well. But as globalization breaks apart and the BRICS countries break apart and do things on their own, it's going to cause a massive problem that we have not seen in 50 years. So I want everybody to be okay. And I think it's so cheap. $1 a can for some of this stuff, just to buy some cans and put it aside to make sure you can sleep at night and you can provide for your family. I wish you the very, very best, you guys. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Have a good night.